Okay, the record button has been pushed. I got my coffee. I got my pink.
Excellent. Just take the lid off mine.
Breaking the ice for anyone who is following me. Welcome to the Buddy Rasberry Show. That might evolve. Anyone who knows
Yay.
me knows that I'm ever evolving. And this would be episode 3. Whoop, knocked the whole desk, shake the camera. This is episode 3 if you've actually watched episode 1 and 2. If not, if this is the first time you're watching, welcome, and glad you're here. And if we end up adjusting things midstream, it's because we're still learning as we go. And so there's nothing wrong with that. My guest slash co-host, most likely, hoping, we'll see if it lands and sticks, is Jess Brown. And I'm going to let her talk a little bit about herself insofar as how the heck she ended up on this show. I mean, I've got my version of it, but she's got her version of it. So you guys have heard enough from me, and I talk a lot. So let's break the ice with Miss Brown.
Well, thank you very much, buddy. I appreciate you. Yeah, I this is my first time being on any kind of podcast. Not my first time on the radio, but definitely first time attempting a format like that. So I appreciate your kindness in inviting me, and also, you know, to just sort of include me in this wild experiment, that we're doing here. My name is Jess, obviously, and I am deeply, deeply fascinated by the way that things work in the world, and I'm always curious. So I think that makes me a pretty good sidekick for anybody who is, looking to explore all of the different things that are going on.
Sidekick. I didn't say sidekick. Sidekick is a much better word. I like that. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm here to throw the softball so you can hit it out of the park,
Oh, I appreciate that.
right?
That's a great analogy.
Yep.
That's a good one. Every now and again it'll be hardball, but softball for starters, right? Until we just get our swing down.
Till we figure out where we're going. Yeah,
I'll eventually
exactly.
stop hitting this desk with my knee once I learn my space and surroundings here. I promise. I don't know if you can
It's
see
a
the
work in
camera
progress,
shaking every
right?
time I do it. Mm.
No, it's all good.
So yeah, the I think the kinship and kindredness, for full disclosure for anyone out there who's wondering, we haven't even met in real life yet. And I think that's kind of fun. And even though what's even weirder about that is that we're actually in the same city, and I think we probably live pretty close to each other. We'll break
Right.
that
Yeah,
ice soon.
exactly.
But no time
Yeah.
like the present. And after having had a few meetings with another group that we're both involved in and feeling the kindredness, and as stereotypical as it all goes, like literally like the whole like finishing each other's thoughts, sentences, and 100% knowing what the next word's going to be. And slash, we had a few jinx moments, which were pretty cool too. In fact, those jinx moments landed, if I remember correctly, exactly on us both saying the word, "That's quantum," at the exact same time when someone said something that was, I believe it was along the lines of being in two spaces at once, basically. And we're like, oh yeah, that's
Yep.
quantum. And so even that moment for me was just one where I was like, oh, hey, like I'm kind of chasing people down to try to do this podcast and get guests on here because no one really wants Buddy's monologue. I mean, if you're going to sign up for Buddy's monologue, it needs to come with like, interludes and songs and stuff. But
And a flag. There
yeah,
should be a flag.
the sidekick analogy is one that I think is more than just an analogy, and I think is very quickly going to become a reality. And so that's fun. Being that this is the first one in this format, I think what we talked about is talking about what we're going to talk about a little bit, not to just buy time necessarily, but to also kind of see what noodles stick to the wall, throw some noodles,
Yeah.
and a little bit about me. I am a musician and I am an openly gay man. I am what people would call a liberal for sure, and I'm definitely very quickly realizing I'm a democratic socialist, which I am quite excited about. It just feels right. And so that said, this is definitely I'm not going to say it's an anti-Republican or anti-Trump or anti-anything, but 'tis the season to definitely make a stand. And so there will definitely be politics. There will definitely be spirituality brought to politics, at least on my end. And then I'm sure Jess will either cool me down or fire me up, depending on what needs to happen. But all that
Yeah.
said, we both have a background in having had a little bit of church experience, and I know that mine's probably a little bit more deeper and a little bit more hardcore. I guess I've definitely been through what's considered deconstruction, and I think you've been through what we would consider deconstruction. We were doing
Yeah.
deconstruction before there was a word being passed around
Right.
deconstruction, so I
Yeah.
think one of my fun things are just kind of more like one of the things that really sparks the inspiration is the idea that you you see what I see from the position that you're at the exact same way. So I am unemployed at the moment, self-employed, but before this, I was a restaurant manager, and in real life, you're a
Yep.
restaurant manager.
Yep.
And what
Hmm.
I love about that is that having that same background as well, one of the things that I realized in being a restaurant manager and being at the front lines of like service work and just the service industry was that when you got quantum stuff going on and you're thinking in quantum thought and you're like not trying to always like, solve the world's problems, but you're definitely like, wanting to be in more than one place at the same time. I feel like being in the stream of the service industry with so many souls and so many people and so many thoughts and so many vibrations that are constantly flowing through, whether it's through the lobby in the front of the house or whether it's drive through or whatever, in an odd way, one of the more like lower on the totem pole, at least that's just what I was told, kind of like positions to be in my life, I found so much stream, so much quantum stream, and so much interaction with people that I was like, don't ever take this away from me. Like, are you kidding? Like, if I ever need to go back to the watering hole, it will be like, put me at a cash register, put me on a drive through window, like, put me somewhere where I'm
Right.
like seeing a new face like every like 3 minutes max, 3 minutes and 30 seconds
Yeah.
maximum.
I have a theory about why that is, honestly.
Good.
Like,
Let's
yeah, and
let's
luckily we're in a podcast so we can talk about
That's see
it,
right. So
right?
one of the other reasons that we're doing this for anyone who might just be sitting on it and wanting to wondering if they should do the same thing is when you're in a group setting and you find that one other person that you're just like, hey, but wait, we could talk about this for like 2 more hours. It's just like, hey, that's what podcasts were invented for. So now we don't have to worry
Right.
about stepping on toes or raising our hands or veering off topic.
Exactly. Or being like, pick me, pick me, pick me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So what is
Well,
your theory on that?
Well, okay, I have been in the restaurant industry like you had for a really long time. My background is I studied theater all the way up through, the master's level, and then realized that I was going to have to get a real job
You
at
went
some
further
point in
than I
time.
did, but also fellow thespian for sure.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
So another thing we have
yeah,
in common.
yeah,
Ding.
yeah.
Yeah. So and that's sort of the gag is that you're going to be a waiter or a waitress the rest of your life, right? And I was like, I obviously took that very seriously, and as I kind of progressed through my career in restaurants, like became more in the management and upper management part of it, where I kind of got to see it from that top down level. And the longer that I've been doing this. I mean, it's been 30 years now. I can admit that. That I have noticed that there seem to be a lot of neurodivergent people in the service industry.
Mm,
And
mm,
first, I didn't really have the words for that or really be able to understand what I was observing in a way that I can now. A lot because like the terminology around neurodivergence is a really new thing, right?
mm-hmm,
We're talking
yeah,
about 10 years or
mm-hmm.
less, right? And if you think about that, it's kind of just been sort of either shoved in under the rug or like neurodivergence has been a shameful, sort of situation for thousands of years. But um, I digress.
No, there's no
what
digressing
I
in the
what I
podcast world. It's all clip
exactly
content, baby. Content is content. More is more.
So my theory is that neurodivergent people are attracted to the service industry because of the ebbs and flows of it, because it's very much like riding a wave of energy, right? And that wave of energy like helps us regulate our brains and gives us the dopamine to do the things, right? And there's also this moment of synchronicity that happens when the team is working really well together, and like you know what your coworker is going to do, and you're just kind of flying through the things. There's a certain kind of little brain high that you get when the music's loud and the food is pumping and everybody's just kind of cruising, you know? And I think that those situations are very attractive to people who are neurodivergent.
Yeah.
So,
Trippy.
yeah, I've
That's
noticed a lot of
interesting.
it.
Yeah. Well,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, I would say too, one of the things that I loved, and boy, that makes so much sense. Um, there's going to be a lot of like in the moment ahas. This is not scripted, folks. But
No.
what I do love is that I always remember feeling like that it was kind of a catch-all for the misfit toys, if you will, too. Like a lot of service
Mhm.
industry stuff is jobs that, that even when we would hire people specifically for just keeping the parking lot clean, then we had an opportunity to hire like developmentally disabled people and stuff, and really have such diversity, and even slipping into the developmentally disabled. I hate the word disabled. Can we
Yeah, me too.
stop with the word disabled on all of that?
Me
Like,
too.
right?
Yeah.
Or deficient, or I mean, it's just, there's this. Anyway,
Disorder. Yeah.
disorders. Yes, yes, those things. Like, stop. Yeah, but
Mm-hmm.
anyway, I digress. The catch-all net of the service industry was one that was so rich and full when you had that lens to see it, right? And I don't think that even what's nice is that it's an ecosystem that not necessarily everyone has to see it in order to appreciate it and to exist in it. But then along come, I don't know, the likes of you and the likes of me that kind of just look at it and be like, oh, this is rich. This is like
Oh, yeah.
this is where kind of rubber meets the road. Like, I remember something too that occurred to me when it came to having an effect on society, right? And it's just like how much you can impact the world around you just by being in the service industry. Like,
Yeah.
hunger is so powerful and food
Mm-hmm.
is so powerful. And when
Yep.
someone is like coming up to that window and they get what they want and they get what they need and it's just perfect and that interaction's great and you send that person out into the world, it's so like well oiled, it's beautiful, the machine just keeps going. But oh my
Yeah.
gosh, the moment that you get that situation where it's like both become the punching bag to each other at that drive-through window or at that counter for any reason, and then you send that person back out into the world, like who knows what pile up you just caused on I-5 because someone's just like
Oh, yeah.
scraping or skirping or because they're so pissed off. It's like
Totally.
from just even that vantage point, I remember being like, this is a powerful job. Like, I have a
It
lot of
really
power over
is.
my neighborhood right now, and whether someone gets hit in the next 10 minutes, like,
Well, or think about all of those millions of examples that you've heard growing up in the service industry of like, the regular older person who comes in every single day and, like clockwork, and they always get the same thing. And then, one day they stop showing up, and then who goes looking for them?
yep,
Right? It's the girl in the drive-through who's like, well, Ted hasn't shown up for his donut today. Like, or for 5 days, maybe he's dead, and then they
yep,
go look for him. And so it's like there's all kinds of ways that we're impacting that are kind of greater than the hype around the industry, at least, right? Like, because nobody respects service workers. They think there's something wrong with you if that's what you do with your
yeah,
life.
yeah. It's just, I almost wonder,
Like, you're
like,
not as good as an architect,
I
right?
really almost feel like that there is a good solid just because like I know and I don't say did my time anymore. Once upon a time I used to say I did my time as a service worker.
Mm-hmm.
I do not say that anymore, but I know that my time spent specifically, and it may not be over, I don't know, but my time spent specifically there was meant to bring something with me that I could then show and give and amplify on behalf of the people that do not get recognized. And I don't know
Yeah.
what that looks like
Yeah.
yet, but I definitely think that there might be an opportunity for us to have a whole episode that's just like dedicated to the service worker and the power of the service worker. I mean, I would love to put together a nice solid episode that a service worker could watch and then put that
Oh
down
yeah.
and be like, dang, I'm going to work today. You know what I mean? Like I
Right.
got a universe to adjust, you know, like
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Well, some of my greatest, personal developments have come because of the lessons I needed to learn in order to be a good leader
Yeah.
inside of those environments.
Yeah.
You know, it's super high stress. It's super like time dependent. It is, really important to have emotional management in those situations, or at least a good fire extinguisher if you're going to light everything on
Yep.
fire,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And, you
Been there,
know,
done that.
I would definitely say that, like, the spark for my own personal awareness and development came from trying to be better at that particular job. So, yeah, there's definitely an episode there somewhere.
Definitely.
Maybe two. Who knows?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So, it's fascinating stuff. But I could talk shop all day. I mean, I really do love it. Yeah. And I think it's that food connection, right? You're feeding somebody.
Yeah, there's something beautiful there. There's something magic there. There's
Hmm.
something, I mean, even just the old cliche of like, the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. I honest to gosh, like I recently was like really absorbing a lot of depression and sadness in the last couple months, just on behalf of either a lot of things I'm definitely going through, but just the world at whole. It's like every time I think I'm not the only, or I think that I'm just like, ugh, this is so unique to me. I'm sure I'm the only one feeling it. I check, my Facebook, and it's like, oh, okay, it's in the water.
Yeah.
But either way, I know that one of the catharsis things that I did for sure was just I was going down my list of like all of my favorites too. I was like, I'm gonna make myself a whole ass cheesecake and I'm just gonna eat the whole damn thing to myself. Like I'm gonna make it just
Hmm.
like grandma used to make it, and I'm gonna sit in front of my TV and I'm gonna not have to share with nobody,
Right.
And I was just absolutely feeding my sadness, and little bites of nostalgia were giving me pure joy in the utter despair that I was actually kind of like sitting in, and it was just like, man, like there's really just no simple things. Like even the like complex things are always made more clear when we just look at the simple. But then when we look at the simple and look at the actual like vibrating affect that it actually has on everything around it, it's like even the simplest little thing, like a good scoop of like Rocky Road, is just like the power it has.
Yeah.
There's something to that magic. There's definitely something to it for
Oh
sure.
yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, and if you think about it from an evolutionary standpoint, right? Like, I mean, humans have been feeding each other, right? And the fact of humans caring for other humans, Homo sapiens, Denisovans, the Neanderthals, everybody, right? Like that's what has moved our human evolution along, right? Is our care and our commitment to the rest of our tribe or our species or whatever, right? And food has been such a major part of that. It's been part of the conversation longer than fire has really, you know, and so
Sticking. I
that's
just I
pretty
just started a
freaking
new
amazing.
game. You'll love this. I started a new
Uh
game, and
huh.
and it opens with a quote. I just finished for I Jess is aware of me having just finished The Last of Us 2, and I say that because we've been actually doing in our group some like grief and loss work as a part of some bigger threshold work. And in fact, I think some future episodes will probably involve some of our peeps from that, to be honest. And that'll be fun. But the universe sets us up, right, for things. We set ourselves up for things. We really kind of knew as we like were doing all this up there before coming down, like where the checked spots were going to be and what have you. And I knew at some point, higher self did, that I was going to end up going through this major grief and loss kind of situation while playing one of the most psychologically like I don't even know how to explain it. Like the amount of empathy that you end up like slowly but surely being forced to develop for like your worst enemy, and then just all of the loss and grief. I mean, anyone who's ever played, and I'm sure people who watch podcasts have probably played The Last of Us 2 at some point or another, or heard about it, or maybe even seen the show on HBO, because there's that too. And though I may be late to the game, I'm never late. I arrive exactly when I mean to. And I'll tell you what, playing that game was in perfect parallel with what I was going through emotionally in the world. And I just started this new one today that opened up with a quote that's very anthropological and very much kind of like what you were just saying, where it's just like, in our earliest days, we had a stick to push things away from us and a rope to pull things towards us. And any early first evidence that you'll ever find for any kind of human existence, you'll find a stick and a rope. So right there is food, fire, and feeding each other. I'll add those to the list.
Right. Yeah. No, that's definitely, I love anthropology and history. And, it all kind of ties back into that sense of pattern recognition I have, and being able to sort of like put the dots in a line, or, be able to put things together in a new way, you know.
Timing is everything too, and that reminds me to you just really recognize that regardless of where we're both at, this is the time to be able to take advantage of the tools that are at our disposal and talk about big picture stuff while we have our little corners in our little worlds that we're in charge of. Like, I love the timing of this. It's exciting,
Yeah.
you know. It sparks my
Mm-hmm.
it sparks my creative spark that's been in
Yeah.
stasis for a hot minute.
Well, it's hard to it's hard when the big sad comes along, you
Yeah,
know?
the big sad is one of those things that it's like inevitable. And
It is.
you always get to kind of like choose how you're going to deal with it each and every time, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's hard to even recognize when you're in the big sad,
Yeah,
Like, yeah. Or and sometimes you're just like, well, here it is again.
yeah. It's so funny too how there's so many things in our lives that are so similar when it comes to that thought. I mean, even just like the start of a school day, when you hate school, you just feel like it's never going to end. You know, like that day is never 3 o'clock is never coming. You know, and
Yeah.
there's nothing that we can do to flip a switch that just automatically tells us when that big sad shows up that it is only temporary. Because in that moment,
Right.
it's just like, I guess this is life now. Oh,
Yeah.
bother.
Well, I
This
mean,
is
but I
my
think
Eeyore phase.
I mean, we are big feelers, right? I describe myself personally, because I have such an interesting background of trauma and training in the human condition, right? Studied to be an actor for a super long time, had
Yeah.
lots of horrible shit happen to me in my life, right? Like that has kind of given me this insight on the human perspective. And so I describe myself as an emotional broadcaster, right?
Love it.
And that I have a very strong signal. So if I feel it, you're going to feel it, right?
Hmm.
And that's always kind of been the way that I go through my life. Like I actually have to feel like I have to guard my feelings
Hmm.
from other people
Hmm.
so that they don't, just get the blowback of whatever it is I happen to be that's passing through the channel at the moment.
Yep. Big
The
feels. Yep. Yep.
big feels. We have the big feels,
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Big time. Well, awesome. So, service workers, quantum stuff. Oh, hold on. Handy dandy notebook. I know that I had
Notebook,
jotted
notebook.
down some possible ideas. Oh, chasing the dopamine. I know was one. I love that one because
Mm-hmm.
there's certain things that I'm gonna state just for the sake of stating them, so that when I have this like scanned for audio later, that it's gonna pinpoint the part of the conversation where I said the thing. So I'm giving myself
Okay.
vocal timestamps. Um, but I want to make it clear again for anyone who's just joining. Um, first of all, Jess is definitely more than just a restaurant manager. I have not read only but just some poems, but I know that she's also a writer. There's also that going
Yeah.
on, and so I say all that. So with the acting background, the writing, the creative, artistic, creative part, then that's matched with my musicianship, and I'm a singer songwriter, releasing music, all that stuff. I say all of that because we live in a world of algorithm, and I believe that those that are going to be best served by joining us on these podcasts and commenting on them, and eventually, I would like to start doing these live, and we'll talk about that and how that feels, and because there's just opportunity to actually get comments in the moment that are actually happening, and just kind of see who's tuned in, and people will be like, "Yes, amen, preacher from the back," you know what I mean, or whatever, or like, "I
Heck yeah, that'd
disagree,"
be
or
awesome.
and so,
Right.
and it's fun. And the last two times I've done this, I've only done them live, and then I post them, and then they're there in the ether to watch whenever you want. But in the moment, it's still. I did it live just because normally, like, that's what it takes for me to just be like, okay, here we go, we're doing it no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yep.
all of that to say, musicians, artists, poets, quantum leapers, developers of I don't know, even app developers, the Democratic Socialists, liberals, social justice warriors,
Mm-hmm.
LGBTQ plus, all of the extra, all of those things. Like those are our peeps. That's our audience. That's and
Yep.
definitely deconstructed Christians for sure. And I know I have a special.
Yeah.
I think there will be some very focused episodes on the deconstruction because I believe that along with the deconstruction comes reconstruction and taking care not to throw the baby out with the bathwater and taking back our birthrights, basically reclaiming our
Mm-hmm.
birthrights. Something that we're going to talk about in the future, and hopefully, like it'll actually kind of like develop from it as we're actually talking about it, and then we can come back to the podcast and report on how last meeting went, kind of thing, as a gather. I know, and I want to say this in a way that's like really just. I guess what I'm when I say even things like that, where I was like, I want to say this in a way because I'm trying to break myself of that habit and just actually going into the thing I want to say the way I want to say it. So bear with me. But I don't want anything to ever come across overly polished. I want it to seem like it's just intended for the moment. And that's because I only want it to ever be intended for the moment. And I know that big feels came over me hardcore when Trump was elected this last time again for a second time. And for me personally, that first, oh gosh, even 2 weeks, I think you could not have told my nervous system that there was a difference between that happening and then my heart having been completely, totally broken or like full, like utter devastation. Like my body felt exactly the same way. And it was weird because my love was lying right next to me in bed or sitting right next to me on the couch or whatever. And he's right there. And I'm like, all is well. My kids are fine. Everything's fine. But I feel like that, like everything just absolutely
Yeah.
broke my heart.
Yeah.
So there
Yeah.
was there was like a big deep sorrow that came over me with that. Like I just felt so defeated, and just so sad for all of what we have done up to this point. And I know that a lot of people felt that way. But also, what really started to come of it in those first couple weeks while I was fresh in the rawness of it was just this desire to make it abundantly clear to anyone who may, because even people who overanalyze the Democratic Party and the Democratic's position and how they campaigned with Kamala and all that stuff, all those analyses can be great. But if we don't look at the root of the issue on what the Republican Party has become and what MAGA has become and what it stands for, when it
Yeah.
comes to being like the manifestation of that deep rooted nationalistic Christianity that is just cancer
Mm-hmm.
to our country. Um, it was I wanted to get up on the rooftops with a loudspeaker and just be like, they have rallies every Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night. Like, no duh, they won. They're the only ones that get together like 4 times a week, 3 times a week, no matter what. And they reiterate and they reiterate and they reiterate and they listen to it.
They're preaching.
The pulpit. And they're reiterating with each other. And we
it's some fucking marketing right there.
Well, it is, you know, and I've actually I made a post that definitely got some flack. And I'm learning how to use my rage bait posts wisely, because I'll mean what I say 100%, and I'll use my broad brush on purpose just to keep it into like one sentence so that everyone's just like, what did he say about? Oh my God, I gotta. And they get in there and they do it fast, right? And so like one of my first posts that got no, that's not true. One of my more recent posts is what I meant to say that got a lot of attention was just the simple line. It was just like. Christianity was one of the world's first multi-level marketing schemes.
Yep.
And I was just like, blanket. And of course,
boom.
I posted it on a Sunday
You're
afternoon
just
too. So
dropping the bomb and walking off.
I posted it on a Sunday afternoon, so everyone gets out of church and sits in their car like, wow, I just felt the Lord. You can't tell me otherwise. You know, and I'm like,
right.
But the truth be told is like, you know, it's time for us to take it back. And so like I will admit.
We'll take what back?
Right. So I'm the worst at prefacing.
Write that down. Right. What are we taking back?
Yeah. A lot of things.
But
one of the biggest things that we take back, which is what leads me to what it was intended to be called, I believe, because I do believe it was a drop-in, is we take back the gathering. We take back gather, right? And so that was when the seed was planted for gather, just simply gather. And the itswherewemeet.com is that landing page where it's like, let's start the conversation. And it's just been sitting there, and the idea's been sitting there. And I even have like a whole manifesto on like what I want it to be and stand for and everything. And I did all that within like the first 2 weeks of coming up with the idea, because that's how my dopamine chaser works. And then it's been almost like a year since I've looked at it. And
that's okay.
Know, I feel like that one of the things that's come full circle and what's coming together for the gather is being just like not PC, because we still have to be wise and make sure that we're taking care not to offend, like, you know, people who are easily offended necessarily. But like being just absolutely clear. Like I've had so many people push back on me that are even like, because there's a huge and it's a good thing, but there really is a big gay Christian movement too. Like there's a lot of or just the LGBTQ affirming churches, and there's just a lot of like trying so hard to still hold on to so much of the narrative, while still like the fundamental core thing is that you're putting a price tag on something that's free. When it's all said and done, you're putting a price tag.
Not to mention
it's free.
Belonging to an organization that will actively persecute you. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Like
it's very self-loathing
right?
in
like
ways that I know not everyone gets, you know what I mean? And because I brought Jesus with me for a long time after I came out of the closet, and it was in seeing all of the other archetypes, and there's a lot of things that we'll go into, of course, like, but you know, just simple things like when you step back and look, and there's been like over 13 different and more even, but real notable ones. And I think we talked about this the other day on the phone, and some of the stuff's going to be redundant for us, but we're bringing it back for y'all, even though we hung up the phone the other day and was just like, damn it, that was a whole episode. Why did we do that? But there's been like over 13 different crucified saviors, messiahs, and most of them actually occurred before Jesus even showed up on the scene when it comes to the archetype of the death, burial, resurrection, virgin birth, all that stuff. And so I would say that a future episode would be exploring the death, burial, resurrection, and archetype of the virgin birth. And why did that ever pop up the first time it ever did? And why didn't that one stick the way that the one that did? And I'll tell you why the one that Jesus did stuck is because that's when government took over. When Rome stepped in and Caesar converted and they mixed what shouldn't be mixed, that's when all of a sudden it was just like, well, this is the religion of the land. This is the religion of the government. This is now the religion of the people, like it or not. And then you get inquisitions and all that stuff that follow afterwards. But the archetype of like the virgin birth and the death, burial, resurrection that even alone is something where it's like, okay, well, I don't want to throw that necessarily out with the bathwater either. If it's a metaphor that keeps coming up, like, why do we as humanity keep planting this metaphorical seed? Like, why does it keep rhyming with itself each time, you know? And then why did this
I
last one
mean,
stick, you know? And it's just, and you probably got
do you believe
answers.
in, yeah, do you believe in the universal human experience?
Well, I don't know if I know what that necessarily means, to be honest. I mean, because there's,
Well, that's fair.
I'll say that one of the things that I study and I like to read a lot, but I definitely know that I'll stumble on things that I didn't realize there was already terminology for sure. And so the moment that I
Totally.
realize that there is the terminology for it, I want to know. And I want to be aligned with, like, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Well, I might have just invented it. I don't know that I've ever read it anywhere. I just noticed the theme, right? Like
Valid.
the through song, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
and so you know,
Almost like the hero's
your
crest kind of thing.
well, yeah, or like archetypes,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just sort of like things that happen to or could happen to any human, regardless of time period or culture or environment, or, you know, just sort of like
Yeah.
basic common denominators of the human experience, you know,
Yeah.
um, like, like feelings or, you know, like the death, rebirth, you know, virgin birth archetype. That's a perfect one. I mean, I think a lot of tarot cards represent human experiences. They represent feelings or situations that humans tend to, you know, stumble into, whether they have words and structure for them or not. You know,
Yeah.
so I don't know that maybe that's what we can call our not cult, right? The not cult that we're going to found, right?
Well, and it's,
Is the our anti cult.
the it's well, so to bring it back to that a little bit, like that's the reclamation that I feel, and I've been on kind of this quest for that reclamation longer than I've ever realized even.
Yeah,
But definitely, like, I think this last time, because the first time Trump was elected, the Christian nationalism narrative wasn't as strong for me, and it wasn't so
right.
blatantly white supremacist, and like it wasn't so blatantly
Yeah,
like really like major manifest destiny, just like all the crap that I thought we had kind of worked out of our system. And it occurred to me that really, that for me at least, if nothing else, and I'll take something as like the president of the United States being elected as a personal signal. I will
oh,
absolutely
totally.
take that whole, like, an entire nation in trauma and be like, buddy, this is your signal. Like, I don't care. I mean, call it a superhero complex you want to do, that's fine.
I
But
mean,
what it did in me and what it woke up for me and what it made me see was what we need to take back. And we need to take back that gathering, because one of the things that
yeah,
I know that I'm capable of doing, and people in spiritual maturity on our side of it are capable of doing, and I think we talked about this on the phone too, and I definitely know that I'm not the only one, and that you and I aren't the only two,
right.
but is the ability to genuinely look at what the formula is that is part of our birthright when it comes to having elated, sensationalist, wonderful, euphoric kind of experiences, and being able to commune with each other and be singing the same song and having the same moment and all of that. Like, that's equation. That's math, and beautiful, magical, formulaic math that comes with quantum type, calculations and both ands and multiple timelines and all that stuff that we have a birthright to, and we get to just swim around that anytime that we get together with other people and just be like, yes, yes, you're so
Yeah,
wonderful, and we feel that, and that is accessible to anyone who goes into a situation where that's the vibration. It doesn't have to be about Jesus. It doesn't have to be about, it could be the church of the purring cat. And if everyone's
right.
in there and they're all gathered together and they're all just like, this is how we and then that's just what they do, then they're going to feel, and I know this for a fact, like, this has been
Yeah,
studied. This is brain science too. It's
right.
neuroscience, like, it's field study, it's everything. And so, like, the mature thing on our end to do is to always approach people who are having religious experiences and Christians and all that stuff as though they are indeed experiencing what they're experiencing. And that is
Oh,
you
yeah.
can't deny that, because to come at it and say it's just, brainwashing and you're just in a cult and like what you're feeling isn't real, like straight up, what you're we think that saying what you're feeling isn't real is now, mind you, we have thoughts and feelings and we know that they are not necessarily reality, but when you feel it, it's real for you, right? And so for us to
Well,
come
and
into a
there's evidence for
conversation,
that on a quantum level too.
right,
Okay, anyway.
right.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, seriously. And what's funny is like before I ever even knew anything about neuroplasticity and myelin and all of that stuff and field work, I remember my um, Charles Rasberry, my father who raised me, because there's going to be two dads that come up throughout all of this, and I've got my biological dad, and then I've got the dad that adopted me when I was 3 and raised me as a pastor's kid. And he was a well-studied guy, like he was kind of a rebel in his own right. He was the black sheep of his denomination, and so I kind of learned rebellion from him when it came to like, no, this is what the Lord really meant, and this is how you dig in and use a Strong's concordance to go back to the original Greek and Hebrew and and so I had a lot of that in my training on how to study my scriptures. And I grew up with one of my favorite scriptures being 2 Timothy 2:15. Study to show thyself approved, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Ding.
What
I've
does that
never.
mean to you?
Well, it's funny because like it's just it's a reminder to always peel it back and always look for the both ends for sure, because the scriptures just don't even mean what they used to mean to me at all. But I do know that the ones that keep coming back, that just like pop up for like, they'll pop up in moments for the moment that it's needed. I'm like, cool, yeah, no, that's, I mean, that's, there's something to, there's a reason for everything, and everything serves its purpose when it's like used in the moment that it's needed. But when it becomes dogma, oh, that's a whole nother thing. We're gonna lose it.
Well, yeah, there's
But
the different. No, I mean, you're talking about the difference between sort of like a real faith, right? Like a real human experience, and people really feeling their feelings and going through, kind of parsing what is, logical or academic versus what is felt or, perceived or
yeah.
intuited,
Well, and you know
right?
what? One of the
Like,
things that I will say that after I got sober 10 years ago, sober 10 years as of last
mhm.
month, I had a
Yay.
conversation with my dad 10 years ago. A couple months after I got sober, I had found some Buddhist material that really Thich Nhat Hanh, of course, he's like amazing,
Yeah.
and I read a book of his, and I wanted to tell my dad something about a revelation that I really felt like I had felt about like this, the waves and the ups and the downs of the waves and how we're all connected and this, that, and the other. And he, like, after all these years, and mind you, that was 10 years ago, drops this crazy little bomb on me and says, well, there's a real good majority of my sermons where all I did was just take all of those principles and then just put Jesus in there instead of Buddha. I was like, you sneaky. But little did I know, though, by him doing that, that he was priming me as a young little rebellious Christian to not be your typical Christian, which is probably the only reason I was able to leave it. Because I was always second guessing everything
Wow.
I'd been taught, no matter what. Like, I was just always, even if it was coming from him, but he's the one who taught me how to do that. And I say
Right.
all that to say one of the things he would do is constantly bring in those studies. He would bring science in. And he actually brought in a brainwave study report that the Army had done on people who speak in tongues versus people who chant. And what they discovered, of course, which is no big surprise to us, is that people who do Buddhist chants, whether it's just like Aman Padme Hung or, Amane Padme Hung or like Rama Da, I can't remember what, you know what I mean. Or someone who's literally just going, their brainwaves do the same thing. Their brainwaves
Yeah.
go to the same place. They start having the
Yeah.
same experience. So this person over here who thinks that the incantation is only possible because of sacrificial blood that did its thing, versus the person over here who just put 1 plus 1 together to equal 2, they're both having spiritual experiences. And it's frustrating because I want to be able to look at someone who's a white supremacist and say, you're not allowed. But that's not what
Well,
being a human means. And so
I
it's
mean,
got to be a little, we got to be
yeah.
a little bit more understanding of what the spiritual experience is when reaching back to our fellow brethren and sistren when it comes to the deconstruction process, by having like at least a built-in, for me personally, a built-in fundamental respect for, I know that what you're feeling feels real, but I guarantee
Yeah.
you that what I'm feeling over here is the same thing you're feeling. But I can look at you and say your feeling is real and my feeling is real. But only one of us is going to look at the other and say you're feeling a demon.
Right, right. And, I mean, when you really start to have that kind of zoomed out perspective about lots of different religions, you realize that like the core tenets or precepts are the same.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah,
like that, like your dad transposing the names between Buddha and Jesus, like they're still talking about the same kind of like frequency of love, essentially, right? And
yeah,
like most of the religious practices that we've developed as humans over the 6 million years we've been alive have either been like evidence based, like look at the stars, look at the trees, look at the lightning, right? Or human experience, like this is based on my love for each other. And I really do think that this idea of like unto me or do unto others what you would have done to you, right? Or love others as you would be loved, right? Which is kind of Jesus's whole thing.
yeah,
Um, is this a universal human experience? Like that is a universal thing that could be across borders and across countries and across religions, and you can kind of, if you walk like that through the world, you'll always kind of true up again.
yeah,
And it doesn't matter if you call yourself a Christian or whatever. It's the persecuting where when people start to get real specific, right?
yeah.
They're like,
Well,
that's
yeah. I mean,
that's when it's important,
yep, yep.
right?
That's I'll say it again for the sake of the podcast. But I mentioned this on the phone the other day. One of the my favorite quotes is from a Southern preacher who showed up to his guest appearance that night at a church that he was preaching at that was not his own. He was a guest in town, and he's driving down, and he's on his way there, and he gets up there, and he's like, on my way here, I saw this sign over here saying here's a Baptist church and a Lutheran church and a Methodist church, and he goes down the list of all the things, and he's kind of like having his own like moment of like revelation, if you will. It's like, man, all these denominations, I tell you what, your sign does not tell me who you are. Your sign tells me where you stopped. And that was just so powerful to me because it's just everything about that speaks to what it means to be a forever learner anyway, to just always be a forever learner and to have the learning mindset, to never be a stick in the mud. Like they say, the old saying goes, a stiff neck is easily broken.
Yeah.
It's like you want to be flexible, right? Or else you're just going to be snapped like a twig. And one of the one of the things that I want to try to encourage people to do as they deconstruct the dogma and deconstruct, unfortunately, lots of trauma that comes from that dogma. The thing that sucks about the Christian dogma that I keep seeing being addressed, and each time I see it addressed by another person, it just, my heart breaks for them, and then for my little self again too. But even the most well-meaning, like, because my story involves like abuse, like not necessarily like like being beat abuse, but like sexual abuse, and those things are becoming way too commonplace, and it's way stereotypical. But my story growing up in church is one that's like it's got trauma, and then like there's just the trauma of saying a prayer before I go to bed every night when I was a little kid, where it's like, as I lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep. And if I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. And ever since I was like, can remember up to the age of like 10, I had this
Right.
mantra that made me fear, the destination of my soul if I died, each night that I went to bed. And so it's like,
Hmm.
even people who didn't have my like super interesting drama, they just by being raised in Sunday school and fundamentally being raised to believe in heaven, hell, and that it's only through a person's like brutal
Works.
flesh flailing sacrifice that they're
Sure.
good enough, because we're
Hmm.
not good enough without it. I mean, like the not good enough part, like that is
Yeah,
the
but
ultimate crux of what I feel like is the trauma that all deconstructed Christians have to deal with, is the fact that they were told fundamentally, no matter what they did, that there was nothing that they could possibly do to be good enough on their own, that they had to have this in order to not only be good
Well,
enough, but to even have a purpose.
yeah. And if you look at it from the perspective of like a large governmental organization really trying to like scare the crap out of the peasants and make sure they behave and like self-regulate their own behavior so you don't have to be out there beating them in the streets to regulate their
Yeah,
behavior anymore. Um, that's a super useful tool,
it
right?
is.
Like taking away their own ability to be divine
Yeah.
inside, like removing divinity from the individual, separating it and like placing it in the external. Like it takes away not just your agency to be divine in and of yourself, but it means that no matter what you do, unless you belong to the group with the very specific rules that you don't control, right? You were doomed, right? And you're making that contract and agreeing to that without ever really understanding what you're agreeing to. You
Mm-hmm.
know, at least when you are selling your soul to the devil, you're on the crossroads, you got a fiddle, you know what the fuck is
I
going
mean,
on,
yeah, or the
right?
guitar
Like,
that you walk away knowing how to play.
right? Like, you know, I mean, but when you are when the kidnapping of your agency is given away in an unconscious or a subterranean way that you're not even aware of before you're even born.
Oof,
I
love
mean,
that.
like, how are you supposed to figure that out? You
Yeah,
know,
it's
you and
tough.
I figured it out because the institution rejected us,
Yeah.
right? Like, I tried to be good, didn't matter,
Oh my God,
right? There
I'm
was
so glad
no
I'm
amount of
gay. I am so
goodness.
glad I'm gay.
I mean, I wish that I was more gay. I wish that I was more gay. Like, if I could choose and go to conversion
Uh,
therapy to be more
for
gay,
the
I
yeah,
fucking like sign me up.
yep,
You
yep, yep.
know, like,
Which does not
yeah,
exist, by the way.
I know you
But I'll
can't do
tell
it.
you,
It
the
doesn't
other
work.
one does.
Right.
Yeah. No, I hear
Well,
that.
you know,
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
and so, yeah, there's a, there's like a fracturing of the soul that happens, you know, on sort of an intellectual or an emotional level that you don't even know that you're giving up because you just are born into a particular set of
ugh, I just got
circumstances.
such a cool visual when you said that too. When you said like a fracturing of the soul and stuff. You know, like the
Hmm.
Horcruxes, like from Harry Potter, which
Yeah.
I do not want to give Harry
Yeah.
Potter any screen time right
No,
now.
we
But either
hate
which
turfs.
way,
Yeah. Hmm.
but the idea that for those of us who've had that happen, that part of our journey is actually like a quest to like reclaim those shattered pieces, and that they're actually kind of like honing beacons for us as we get closer to where they are waiting for us. Like, ooh,
Hmm.
I just had this just real fun kind of like Fellowship of the Ring vibe, where it's just like super
Yeah.
questy, very just Dungeons and Dragons. Like, I'm on a quest to find the fractured pieces of my soul. Before time
Right.
began, the fractured pieces were
Yes.
strewn across the lands.
Because what's going to happen when all those pieces come back together into unification, right? Like
Yeah,
you're going to walk differently through the world than you would have,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
without giving that away. You
There's a
know, like
great
you're going to be different.
there's a local artist that his name's Michael, and he's the balloon guy. Like, I don't know if you see like the memes where there's just like phrases on a wall spelled out in
Yes.
balloons and stuff.
Yeah. Hmm.
He's a friend of mine, and so like I'll quote him, but then he'll actually have like the person who made the quote, and their name will be there, but I don't always remember who that is. I say that, so I'm just apologizing in advance for whoever came up with the quote. I know it wasn't necessarily Michael who came up with the quote, but Balloon Guy had a quote that was basically, "I'm so grateful that I did not get all of those things that I thought I wanted." And that rings really strong for me, even though I may feel like I'm late to the game and like a late bloomer when it comes to the career that I want to have with my music. At one point, You know, I was on the verge of signing a deal with Sparrow Records, the same label at the time that was like really pushing Switchfoot at the time, and I had just opened for Switchfoot, and it was amazing, and it was a beautiful time of my life, and I was really on the verge of becoming assigned and pretty um, pushed because of my style of music back then was really kind of new to the genre, or new to Christian music and contemporary Christian music, and I was pushing my edges, and I was really on the verge of my own breakthrough and kind of like fully fulfilling my dreams. I was married. I had one child at the time. I was very much still a Pentecostal Christian who was going to a Pentecostal church in San Francisco, California, and that was where I had been sent to work for this company called Christian WYSIWYG Filmworks, started by a church at the time called Voice of Pentecost. And their whole mission, in which I think I've said this to you before, and you actually said the only difference in there was to change. Well, I'll say it again.
In your calling.
Bring the presence of God to earth through entertainment is basically what it was. Bring the kingdom of God to earth through entertainment is basically what their mission was. And so that was my MO, and I'm like, hell yeah. I mean, access to the studios and everything. It was just like all right there. And then just ultimately, and that's why I said I'm so glad I'm gay. Ultimately, I had a kicking against the stones, straight up fist to heaven, just full on argument with God when it just came to like, I have been so faithful to your word. I have been such a stalwart evangelist on your behalf. I'm your biggest fan. I've got this
Right.
music coming out. It's all about to do, and I'm like, and there's just this one stupid thing that you refuse to like fix in me. Like, what's going on? Like, you could take this away if you wanted to. And then that just like it boomeranged.
Yeah.
And it went, you're right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well then, why don't, wait, oh, and it was just like, and it was interesting because in that moment, like if I didn't believe in God, all of a sudden I wouldn't have even come out of the closet. But it was actually in that moment that I was like feeling the voice say, I can do anything I want to do. I am fully capable. Are you trying to tell me that I made a mistake? And I was like, oh. I mean, in that moment, I thought I was just, really kind of like, my life was my own kind of like, get this out of me. Like, I'm done,
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it was like I was literally critiquing the craftsman of his own handiwork when I have no qualifications to create a human from scratch, quote unquote, or like, blueprint for that.
Right.
And it was in that moment that everything that I had dreamed of and wanted just kind of like went flying out the window, but at the same time, all of a sudden, a freedom that I had never experienced in my entire life, which would take some time to stick because I end up still going through a very solid dark night of the soul, and I'm sure that we'll both have opportunities because I know that those episodes are going to be powerful, and I know that one of the things that I have been avoiding over the last 10 years of being sober is talking about the 8 solid freaking years that I wasn't and what that really did do so that I can really, because recovery is going to be a part of this too. Let's put that word in here. That's another algo word I want to get picked up. Is recovery.
There you go.
Is a part of my story, and I'm so glad I didn't get what I thought I wanted because the amount of backpedaling I'd have to do too would just be so much work. Oh my gosh, like. But I thought he was, and now I get to be like a nice ripe like 45 or whatever when I just step out on the scene like this is who I am. Which, that's coming. And according to you, it'll be in 6 months. And I'm going to keep saying that and receiving that. Well,
absolutely.
whatever it looks like. But either which way, the reclamation of the gathering, I think, is going to be a recurring theme. And I love that kind of putting it out there and just kind of seeing what, because I don't know what that looks like. Like I have so many archetypes in my mind of like, like home groups or this, that, and the other, or can we get together in like parks and, but what we do need to do is gather for sure. And we definitely need to take back the like what worship would be considered, and the music part of it, and the ability to look at each other with edification, and just like stop
Witness.
witness each other, encourage
Yeah.
each other, edify each other, love on each
Yeah.
other, dance with each other. You know, like
Right.
the Christian
Celebrate each other.
charismatic music, like you'll see these weird, like they get it. There's groups out there that get it. There's spiritual gurus that are out there getting it. And
Oh yeah.
I'm telling you what, right now, spiritual gurus that are out there, the number one evil thing that Christianity and religion do is put a price tag on something that's free. Stop
Yeah.
doing the same thing. No one can afford a $300 retreat to go
Yeah.
and be told how to lay on the ground and laugh in hysterics until you've reached euphoria. They can go to a
Right.
Pentecostal church down the road for that. And they can get that
They
for
can go to
free.
the park for that.
But like, I am so over spiritual wisdom being appropriated. Period.
On a PDF file, if you just subscribe to their Substack and like pay attention to this. Yeah, no, I get it. I
And
get
I'm
it.
fine with like publishing books and stuff. You know, like I want my art to pay for my sustained life. Like I want to be able to like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I want my music to be accessible, and I want people to, you know, contribute, and I want my books to be for sale when I write them eventually, and you want your books to be for sale when you know, but like
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to appropriating
Soul.
steps and soul and just like, you know, like things that should otherwise literally be screaming from billboards everywhere we look, like, okay, I know we're a capitalistic society, but like that's the soapbox that I'll step down for now, but I'm
Well,
telling you
I
there's something
mean,
to
I
it.
feel you. You know, it's like every we grew up in the sort of decades where the mega churches were just forming, where there was a pastor on every block in every church who was just waiting to sell you on their new tapes
Yep.
or
I
their
was 14
the
years
new
old when the
thing.
Pensacola revival happened.
And so those two things, faith and commercialism, have been irretrievably linked in our background.
Yeah.
So to try to wrest them apart is kind of tough because we've been kind of conditioned that those things go together, even though we know that they don't.
I
You
mean,
know,
a good baby step would
um,
be make your conference for free, and then we'll buy your books.
yeah.
Okay.
Right. Or like, I mean, the thing that I used to wait for in every new attempt to proselytize me, because like I said, I've been baptized in multiple different churches.
Sure.
I've, gone through lot of different speeches, a lot of different attempts, is like, well, it's all very well and good until someone tries to tell you that they know what happens after you die, and B, they're trying to sell you something,
Yeah.
because those two things usually happen
Yeah.
like after the hook has been
Yeah.
planted. I don't know if you've ever sat through a
Yeah.
timeshare speech,
Oh my God,
but
yes.
like,
No, I've been to a few MLM meetings in general, and then of course
right,
timeshare meetings are just, you know, they're the very same
like,
vibe. Yeah.
yeah, but like, they want to tell you about the glorious future, right? That they
Yeah.
only have the wisdom to, and you can have the wisdom if you just pay $9.95
Yep.
twice a month, right?
Yep.
For the rest of your life,
Yep.
right? Like, and so like those have been my two kind of red flags, I suppose, for anyone, any kind of
Yeah.
spirituality or any kind of faith that comes at me is like, what are you selling? And what happens after we die?
Yeah.
It will like, where do those kick in?
Yeah.
Because then I know I'm out because you
You know,
don't
it's
have the
so
truth.
funny too. Like it's literally uh, timing is just so crazy, and it's so nuts how frustrated we can get when we're just like right before the finish line, or right before the thing that it is that we need to see, like that, just when it comes to a
Yeah.
head right before, it's just like, oh, why don't I remember this every time? But everything we're talking about on the micro versus the macro level is, I feel it in my marrow of my bones, is the kind of
Hmm.
conditioning that we need to start to spread through our communities that are going to, not to make it about politics, but the politics are always kind of like the rise to the surface kind of manifestation of what's been sifting and living and
The reflection.
growing. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Of the inner one.
I the one thing that I used to be so fascinated by when it came to when I was still in the church was reading in the book of Acts, how the first church was after, just right after Jesus ascends and all the things and says, I'll be back and I go to prepare a place for you. And then, meanwhile, go spread the word, right? And not only did the first church have all things in common,
Hmm.
but even the fears that capitalistic hardcore like fiscal conservatives have in regards to like socialism, those even like are talked about even in the book of Acts when it comes to the first church had all things in common, and they were told to basically sell all their stuff if they wanted to be a part of what was actually happening and developing in the community that they were creating, and bring it all to the pile, and then each person had whatever they needed whenever they needed it. I mean, that's the kind of socialism that freaks people out hardcore, because it's just like,
Oh yeah.
my own stuff's not even my own, right? But like literally that's how the first church was. And I don't believe that that's the kind of
Right.
socialism we need. I don't. I think in a perfect world, like it would just be like wonderful because we would never have ever had a concept of capitalisticness. But I don't think that's the answer. And so like, the alarmists are being alarmists, and so far as like the manipulative alarmists that are saying that, we're about to like step right into like communism next, right? But regardless of all of the scare tactics, the vibration of what it truly means to have a, and I believe in democratic socialism. I believe in people coming together and campaigning and people making their cases, and we elect what we want to see and that stuff. I believe it should be chosen by the people. But never in a million years did I ever think that we'd actually be having like a legitimate conversation about a potential third party or the new evolution of the Democratic Party into this DSA kind of situation.
Oh yeah. Well, I
But
mean,
it
I'm it's one of the
vibrates.
things I'm super grateful for,
Well, it
right?
vibrates right though. It vibrates with this like coming to the true understanding kind of thing. Like it vibrates on a quantum level. It
Yeah.
vibrates in a way that's going like universal health care is so, I mean, oh my gosh, the fact that we don't have universal health care, I mean, that's not politics. That's not capitalism. That is
Yeah.
blatant disregard for a commission to take care of each other. And we can't,
Yeah.
it's not sustainable. And,
Well,
and,
it goes back to that scarcity, right? The scarcity
mm-hmm,
mindset. God exists
mm-hmm,
outside of you, right?
mm-hmm,
Like wealth exists outside of you. Your
yep,
objects reflect your own personal like identity in a way, like and so when you are in the habit subconsciously of outsourcing your agency, your divinity, right? Then like of course you have to go out and acquire those things. You
yeah,
don't just get to be because being is
yeah.
not okay.
Yeah,
Like
being feels
and
empty. Yeah, being can
if you
just feel like a
yeah,
black hole. The opposite, like where it's
right.
just like almost
You
eating
know,
you alive.
whereas when you say out loud, everyone has a right to health, happiness, or health and the pursuit of happiness, right? What else is in the Declaration of
Oh
Independence,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Freedom, right?
Life,
Like,
liberty, and the
and the
pursuit of
pursuit of
happiness.
happiness.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, those are our sort of our core values, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
but we are used to outsourcing them, because the thought of like just, well, if that guy gets to just live for free, then everything I've ever done and sacrificed is doesn't make sense anymore because we changed the rules, right? Like,
yeah,
and they're like,
yeah.
and they're, and so, but what I hear you saying and what I hear you calling for, it was going to be my contribution to the algorithm, right? And that's going to be the word matriarchy,
Mm,
right? Because that's the reclamation is definitely about coming back to a soul place, but I also think that there's some reclamation of the feminine
yeah. Oh
that
yeah.
is
Yep.
that is called for. Just
Yep.
that we care for people. You know,
Yeah,
we
I mean,
care for people.
there's terms divine feminine and the feminine in general, and you know, some of those terms are triggering and some of those terms are whatever, but there is something to, I would almost say that it is a divine feminine that one would hope, and not to say that there's anything wrong with going all feminine, because I don't believe in extremes and polarity. So if it's all male or if it's all female, then we've got something's amiss, right? Like just in general, because that's
Right.
just. But one of the things that I've been craving, and this is why I love the trans community so much. I mean, I love the trans community, period, because they the amount of bravery it takes to
Yeah.
walk out the door. You know, like
Yeah.
very few people in the trans community walk out the door are passing and look exactly like what they want to look like.
Yeah.
It's very few do, you know, and only the ones that end up on TV and are celebrities are the ones that are just like the most put together. And there's lots that are, you know, but either which way,
Well,
it's just
and
the amount of
yeah.
bravery that it
Right.
takes. But there's something to this just backbiting, white knuckle death grip, death throes thing that
Yeah.
even because you know turfs or machismo chodes over here, there is something that we are missing when it comes to the androgynous, when it comes
Well,
to
yeah.
the unnameable, when it comes to the
Right.
unlabelable,
Yeah.
the the I love the fluidity that's come, but almost it's like that's become the biggest target now because it's the one that
Yeah.
everyone's just freaking out about. But it represents
Well,
something so much deeper. It represents something so much deeper.
yeah.
And
Do you follow Alok?
oh God, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh, they're
Yeah.
absolutely one of my we Matt and I saw them live at the Aladdin 3 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and they are just fantastic and mind-blowing. Like I listening to Alok even articulate one sentence is enough for me to just sit there and weep for a little bit and then like want to do an entire expose on just that one thing. And it's so refreshing to hear it and to just know. Like, uh-huh. Like just straight up just like they'll say the thing and they say it with such compassion and understanding for the self-loathing that it's really coming from and all of that. It's just like, oh God, a dream that I would love to manifest would be, of course, having Alok as a guest on this show
Oh
and
my
being
gosh,
able to
yes.
just.
You hear it now, ladies and gentlemen. We
Well,
call
they're
it on
they're
the
all over
first
the place, and
podcast.
and, and I'm sure
Yeah.
it would probably at this point they have to sustain themselves and such too, because I know that their things are their engagements obviously cost money and things like that. But there's a few other guests that I've already kind of said yes that I've been sitting on until I knew what this was actually going to really feel like. And Jay Baker's one of them. And then Colby Martin is another one. He wrote a book called Unclobber. And then I think he has like another book coming out that goes even a little bit deeper.
Mm.
Both of them are still of the Christian faith. And I respect that about them because both of them are very much like the rebels, the black dogs, the underdogs. Colby Martin's all about unclobbering all of the scriptures that were ever used to clobber the gay and LGBTQ community.
Mm.
And then Jay Baker is the son of Tammy Faye Baker, Jim and Tammy,
Mm.
and his church is actually mostly a virtual church, and it's up in Seattle called Revolution. And I'm looking forward to
Mm.
giving him a platform to talk. I mean, he doesn't really need my platform to talk, but those are some other guests that I am looking forward to kind of talking to about Gather, though, because I feel like that there is definitely a uh, there's a part of what it's going to end up feeling like and looking like. I know is part of what I was running away from when it comes to my own personal calling is that it does feel a little bit like church, and it does feel a little bit like being a little bit of like a pastoral kind of figure and stuff. But you know, I'm not going to let my own PTSD, if you will, keep me from at least making the first couple steps to doing what it takes to be like a come one, come all It's got to be a little bit
Yeah.
of a ringleader at first, and so looking forward to talking to them about
Well,
that and talking more about like what that could even look like in the physical within our community and setting up a first thing. Because what I would love to do is even edit together footage from some of our stuff and come back and talk about it and invite more people and just keep expanding on it. Because one of the things that Portland doesn't have, obviously we want it to be bigger than Portland, Oregon, but Portland, Oregon's where we're from, by the way, or at least where I'm from. Or do
hmm
you live in Portland?
I do.
Okay, yeah. I know that you work in Portland, but um, Portland doesn't even have a drum circle, yo. What's up with that?
What?
Of all places in the
What?
world, how is that even possible? And the one place that I imagine it being is at the top of Mount Tabor. And I just
Yeah.
and when I lived in San Francisco, when I needed that not in church kind of, I would just go to the
hmm
drum circle at Golden Gate Park, and at any given moment, it would be either 10 people or like 110 people. Like it was just this ever living, always pulsing organism that
Energy.
that that
Yeah.
existed in the city that was just there, and Portland needs a drum circle, its version
Mm.
at least.
Yeah. Or, just like that sort of continuous, improvisation, I guess. Is that
Yeah.
what you're thinking? Like,
Well,
people just have a place and they know where to show up, and
yeah.
it doesn't matter what time, and they can just slip in and slip
I
out
would love that to be
freely.
at
And
least one of the elements. There's, and what's interesting is like you would have, looking back to my upbringing, we would have things like 24-hour prayer houses, and those 24-hour prayer houses were exactly that.
hmm
They were different, and each within certain cities, different actual sanctuaries would volunteer. Like this one's going to be over at so and so's church over and so, because like there would be like a kind of like a council of pastors for different communities that would come together and at least see what the other pastors are doing. I mean, again, anything that they're doing, we should be doing, but better. And
yeah,
which is
like on a
funny because
secular version.
that's exactly what we used to say in the church: is anything that they're doing, we should be doing, but better. But really and truly, I believe there's something to being intentional and specific about how with the deconstruction part comes the recognizing that we came down here to be human. We didn't come down here to be born into
Perfect.
sin and then redeemed and then be sitting on our toes and thumbs waiting for a second coming for the rest of our lives.
Okay.
We didn't come here for the escape. We didn't come here to escape. Like, we did not come here just to leave, right? And so there's something to be said for embracing and welcoming a spiritual experience while fully embracing the dirt and grime of reality and recognizing that the deep, deep magic is in the dirt and in the leaf and in the oxygen and in the water. Like, don't even get me started on water.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
those are
that's a
the
whole that might be 5
I
podcasts.
should be.
Okay.
It's worth it because we can even go into Einstein's membrane theory when it comes to water.
Oh
Like
yeah.
water is like a bridge, and it's insane what we take for granted is just this like daily, like I turn on a faucet and it's just like pure life magic just pouring out of the faucet. Like
Well, but that's the whole point. That's the whole point, right? Is like when you externalize your spirituality, then the things that you experience on the daily must not be ethereal, right? Like you can't find magic in the everyday because the magic and the God and the amazingness has to exist outside of
yeah,
and it's that it's such a devil's bargain,
it's
and that
just
people don't even know that they're
no, and
making,
and, and again,
and
it's
it's
being sold on
like,
their behalf. That birthright or that inheritance is being sold before they're even born on their behalf, and now we're being born in
yeah,
such a way that we have to go hunting it down and reclaiming it, which
well, yeah,
adds
I think
character.
because What we're talking about though, buddy, is this idea of belonging,
Yeah,
right? Belonging is a basic
yeah,
human evolutionary
yeah,
need. It is
yeah,
as instinctive as fear. It is the first thing that we have to do. And if belonging requires like dancing in a certain line and behaving in a certain way and hating people who don't believe the same way that you do, you know, I mean,
yep,
it's
yep,
not what
yep,
we're trying to do, and it sounds like what you're trying to do with Gather is create a space for people to belong and to organize and to self create without having to sell their freaking soul to be
yeah,
there.
yeah. No, pointing it to each other instead of up. All of the
Yeah,
edification going left, right, forward, backward. None of it going vertical, and it all staying lateral. And that when
yeah.
it's lateral, because one of the principles that I loved that was shared in some groups that I took a while back, and I can't remember if V brought it up in our most recent group or not, but um, the the reciprocity that comes with the lateral is very much the socialistic aspect of when the tide rises, all ships rise.
Yeah,
When the tide rises in the bay, in the harbor, all of the ships in the harbor come up, and there's an equity
right.
there, and there's an equity of
Yeah,
elevation, and there's an equity of edification, and restoration, and there's a lot of that terminology that all needs to be reclaimed too, because there's certain things
yeah,
that it's just like for those who are deconstructed, they'll hear certain terminology, and I say this from personal experience, it's triggering. It's like there's certain terms that the church only ever used, but that speaks so true to what the actual principle is that it's like a full on reclamation just needs to happen. So much healing. And then it's
yeah,
also like really timely because we need to take our country back. We need to
yeah,
take the narrative of what progress and equity and equality and actual like unconditional love looks like, because there is a like deepest seed still finds the light of day reckoning happening right now that we need to
yeah,
embrace, but without fear, because like I don't think we're going backwards. What I see is the scum coming to the surface of the pond. What I see is crucibles being brought to their boiling points to such an extreme that nothing can be hidden underneath, and it's all boiling to the top. Because
right.
one of the craziest things is we talked about the difference between like, am I causing the world to happen right now versus like, am I just that in sync with the world that's happening right now and seeing it happening as it's happening? But I think we can both relate to the reckoning that is all kind of the best way to encompass all of it is the Epstein reckoning, if you will. I mean, there is no more room for abuse like that.
Yeah,
And that specific kind of abuse is so specific to experiences that I've had that it feels so weird to feel the reckoning within my own body and then to see it on a national scale too and see it on a world and global scale. That
yeah,
it's very much like, okay, what cannot pass will not pass, and I am encouraged by that. And that means there's parts of
yeah.
me that won't even be able to pass through. There's
Mm-hmm.
this I think it was Disney. I think Disney was the studio that did it. Did you ever see the live action The Great and Powerful Oz with James Franco? And
No.
Michelle Williams is in it, and Mila Kunis is in it, and James Franco plays the wizard who gets caught up in the tornado that then takes him to Oz way before Dorothy ever shows up. And he's a total schemer. He is a schemer. A what's the word I'm looking for?
Con man.
Con man. Thank you. God, I couldn't think of that. He's a total con man. And about halfway through the story, he's like, his genuine good nature is starting to come through, but the con man is still there, and he's flying with Glinda in a bubble to a kingdom that's protected by a bubble that keeps all things evil out.
Mm.
And so he's like, oh my God, we're about to hit the wall. And she's like, don't worry. It only keeps out things that are evil. And then she kind of has this moment like, wait a minute, I'm not sure if he's going to make it through this or not. But there's this moment where he's just like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. And then he finally makes it through like the barrier where it's just like, all right, pal, you squeaked on through. But sometimes I feel, sometimes that's how I feel, where it's just like, okay, I really want to be able to walk into the future, but I know how much of me has to be left behind that I feel like I'm just like,
Yeah, for sure. Transition, right? Yeah,
ugh.
yeah.
And it is.
I
It's very
love
much
that
like
you're
being born.
creating. It is. No, it is. You're leaving behind parts of yourself that you don't need anymore. I mean, I love that you're creating a space for people to belong without boundaries. I think that's really interesting.
I mean, that's the
You
goal.
know,
Yeah, that's the goal for sure.
yeah, yeah. I think that's going to be really fun.
Anybody out there who's
And
got
I
any
love that,
ideas?
right? Well, I mean,
Community
you just
centers or
need
anything like that? Spots where we can meet up,
start
bring a
outside.
guitar, bring some drums. Yeah, no, starting outside is definitely what I've been thinking for sure.
Starting outside. Yeah, well, I mean, for those of us who like to commune with nature, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's awesome that you're doing it, and I'm glad that I get to kind of be a part of it.
Oh
And
yeah.
at least
Oh yeah.
help you get it going,
No, you've definitely
help you
you've
get
helped
it
me lit
out
a fire
there.
under me again that I've needed desperately. So muchas gracias for that.
Yeah, thanks
So
for.
while I've got you still, and while we're still recording for posterity, if nothing else, I got my notebook here. What has occurred to you or come up in any of this that would be full on like let's take a moment and dilate time and pull that apart into its own episode?
Oh man. Well, we could talk about you know the way that we each experienced, Trump coming to power both
Mm.
times, because I had a different perspective on it based on kind of the micro things that were going on in my life. I remember when he got elected the second time, I made my one of my very last Facebook posts of all time,
Mm-hmm.
which was America went back to her abuser today,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because for me, it was just so very clear to see that, like, we've been walking the cycle of abuse inside of the structures that we have worshiped. And that, we have chosen deliberately the worst of us in order to be able to sort of like it.
The
It's
worst
the
of us
walking of the
too.
last
My gosh.
like the last loop of the spiral, right? Like I
Yeah.
could do a whole like
I
hour
feel
and a
it. I
half
know it. I
on
smell
how
it. Yep.
right on how Henry VIII and Trump are actually like the same kind of person, and how they're both like they're actually the perfect model of our time. Like they are exactly the human that they have been told to be. Like they're not bad. They are exactly the perfect result of the inputs received, right? And they're both serial killers, and they're both rapists, and they're both, I mean, and I see that as more of a commentary on the inputs than like the particular like results,
Yeah.
right? But like, and we can talk about it. So that would be that's one of my favorites. Like
Okay.
always, like I
Love
will
it.
always talk about that one. We could also talk about Paul Revere and the printing presses. Like I really want to talk about that. There's this whole backstory about who Paul Revere was and how all that shit went down. That's
Interesting.
really fascinating and has some
Interesting.
parallels going on today.
Okay. Love it.
Um, right. I know feminism, obviously, deconstructing religion, always. What is actually happens in neuroscience, in the brain, like the science of
Neuroplasticity and the
belonging.
yeah, the
Yeah, like
deconstruction,
the human.
neuroplasticity. Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful.
I think most of the things that I'm going to contribute have to do with that universal basic experience. Like, what is the human experience, and how do we each kind of, and what's the point of it? Like, why are we even,
Yeah. No,
why are we even doing
100%.
this?
Yep.
Why are. And
Here, just for
so,
I forget that I have some tools at my disposal, but for that you get a
ooh, yay. I feel very, and I just really welcome the chance to be witnessed, I think,
mm-hmm.
I've had lots of these kind of thoughts my whole life, but the idea of being able to get them in the car and send them out down the road into
Mm-hmm.
whoever might find it, right, is just really gratifying to
Yeah.
me. So,
I would definitely
that's,
like to talk about the um the spectrums
oh,
and
yeah,
where quantum comes in with the spectrums and what
yeah,
the fact that there is of course no such thing as normal,
right.
and our interpretation of other people's behaviors as disorders or what have yous versus like I would say we both kind of have the ability to see the perspective like someone who's actually in like quantum zone, and a lot of us that are in quantum dwellers, and like a little bit on both sides of the veil with how
Hmm.
our brains work and how society could better embrace the I don't know,
Yeah.
the spectrum in general too.
Well, even the idea of a spectrum versus a binary is a revolutionary one in at least white American culture,
Yeah.
right? Like, that was, a big part of Alok's teachings that I really took to heart was like, and then of course we're in the rise of fascism. So, and fascism requires a
Yeah.
binary,
Yeah.
right? Which is on
Yeah.
purpose, 100% on purpose. Like
Yeah.
there are reasons for that
Yeah.
that are clear and scientific and, not just like my woo woo thoughts,
Oh yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And
All the woo
so
woo. All the woo woo thoughts. We
all the
want
woo
all
woo
the
all
woo
the
woo.
time. Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
All of
Exactly.
it.
Like it's somebody else's job whether to prove it. It's just my job to like spitball and be like, could this be true?
Yep.
Right? Like,
Yep.
like I don't.
I love your passion around AI as well, and I know that's a hot topic, so
Yeah.
that'll definitely get a lot of
Yeah.
viewership. I mean, we're just going to talk about it practically. I'll get some views, some content,
Totally.
and
Totally.
definitely, I think, I I've been thinking about it even more since our last meeting that we had, and it's such a cathartic. It was a cathartic moment for me
Oh, good.
to kind
Yeah.
of feel those emotions through you regarding it and stuff. So we can talk more about that.
Well, good. Yeah. No, I'm glad I didn't just freak you out, for
No, no. I
everybody who
mean,
wasn't
I you
in
know
that conversation. Yeah.
I have we all face our own mirrors, right? You know what I mean? And definitely like what you said was so valid and so real and so true in regards to just the emotion that comes with it and how it makes someone feel, and anyone who feels violated. And I mean that's just how we all felt, and that's how I still feel, while at the same time like like there's certain tools that I just know I use in my music making that
Sure.
at this particular juncture like I now toil with in ways that I never toiled with before, because
Yeah. Sorry.
like as a
Yeah.
singer songwriter I play the piano but I don't play and sing at the same time, and I never have, not live ever. Well, I mean I've done plunking on the chords and stuff, but you know I write and produce all of my own music and stuff like that, and so there's just like there's new waves of like looking at the future of creativity through the
Hmm.
lens of agency with where
Yeah.
technology is going, and I think that's really where, because agency is huge for both of us clearly, you know what I mean, and that's like
Yes.
that was like the crux that I saw was and felt and walked away with, was that we've really got to become more and more aware of where we're already being robbed of agency, and
Right.
where we're already being not spied on, because here's my own very nutshell philosophy on Big Brother for me personally.
Hmm.
If you want to see how I get myself off, then have fun, but in general I ain't murdering nobody, I'm not breaking any laws over here, and in general, like I'm one of those voyeuristic type people that I love. I live on a stage, and so me personally, if people want to spy on me, I'm just like, well, cool. Maybe they'll figure something out. Maybe they'll learn something from me while they're watching. but I
Yeah.
get and understand. I totally not even get because like I feel it. I feel the the like when you know how much all of a sudden you like in hindsight see literally how your data has been harvested and how everything's been used to like I don't want to be spiritually manipulated either. Where over here I'm thinking like coincidence, ooh, synchronicity, and it's just like tee hee, sorry, it's an algorithm. I mean, and what's funny
Hmm.
too is that oh, there's a topic.
Yeah.
There's algorithm, and then there's the
Algorithm.
algorithm that's
Yeah.
always listening and always
Yep.
watching. So anyway,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
Yeah. No, there's
algorithms is
that.
a good one.
I think it is absolutely, yeah, both
Cool.
from a pattern sense and you know, because these larger forces are shaping our day to day lives in ways that nobody has any kind of a blueprint for. We're very
Yeah,
much in undiscovered country.
yeah,
You know, I know like when Gutenberg invented the printing press or whatever, and was like, "Woohoo! Look at me! Look what I can do!" You know, like everybody knew that that was gonna fuck some shit up, but nobody really knew how or why, you know, but there wasn't necessarily this like feeling of, or maybe there was, I don't know, a feeling of like, well, now I'm going to have to, like, you just have to learn how to read,
mm-hmm,
right? Like,
mm-hmm,
you know,
mm-hmm.
like
Yeah,
the technology was beneficial in opening, in truly opening doors for humanity,
yeah,
as opposed to like this, which feels very extractive without being truly beneficial. I mean,
and I
I
think there's a part
appreciate,
of that
yeah,
that has to do with who's behind the wheel too, right? One of the
yeah,
things I
yeah.
think and this is not I'm not trying to be like idealistic and I am certainly not trying to come to the defense of AI by any means. I wish the shit had never hit the fan on that because
Hmm.
it's a major mess, but I guess it was inevitable because it happened. One of the things that I definitely feel like is coming is there is going to be a new eco discovery. There's going to be some new form of how energy is focused, harnessed, and dealt with. That is going to be. I feel it in my bones. I don't know how soon, by any means.
Oh, you feel like you know, like the super consumptive. You're talking about like the water usage and like the
Yes, the
eco.
things that are actually like those kinds of things. I feel like that, and it's ironic because it could be very chicken and egg. It could be very well AI that figures it out, right? But at the same time, like the everyone tries to do the devil's advocate thing where it's just like, well, double edged sword, and anything can be used for good or evil depending on how you use it and whatever the tool might be. But ultimately, every time I look back, and like you said, even with the Gutenberg press, and I look back and I see those types of things, it still is such a cliche that it's just like, well, yeah, it's either going to be used to print the best novel you've ever read in your life, or it's going to be used to print Mein Kampf, or the
Well,
Bible for that
you
matter.
know, or the Bible for that matter, you know, which spread Christianity and was responsible for, you
Yeah,
know, a lot of
it
proselytizing
created
and
like
missionary work
immortality.
across the world. Well, yeah, and I mean, the biggest like thing, I think extractive piece of it is not just the environmental part of it, because we could have free power if we wanted to. We
Yeah,
could we could power those things with, you know, windmills and solar panels if we wanted to. That's not the problem, right? Like we could, you know, find ways to design massive server farms that don't require only the purest of river water,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like there, those are so human problems that
yeah,
humans could work out, like, or AI could if they wanted to. My problem with it is that um, because you no longer know what is human created versus which is robot created, they're
for now.
fucking with
Yeah,
the
yeah,
idea of reality.
yeah,
Right? They're distorting this idea of like a centralized reality. They're
yeah,
fucking with the groupthink, right?
yeah,
And groupthink can be bad, groupthink can be good. Like we can go back and forth and have a whole podcast on that. But the idea that they're cutting off at the knees, like that we can trust, our experiences
Mm-hmm.
and the emotions that we have because of what we see and what we perceive, our
Yep.
own personal realities. Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there's so many red flags in it for me that I'm gonna yell about those things,
Yeah.
right? Even if it makes me sound
And
like a
you're not
crazy
alone
old
because
person on the top of a hill, you
there's
know?
definitely some hardcore regulations that have started to come down the chute, like Tidal and Spotify with how they're flagging anything that has AI in it for like music now, and then like they're automatically turning off monetization for people who are just like one sentence prompting songs that are hitting chart topping, like like
Well,
that kind
they're
of stuff.
super catchy,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Like,
because it's
I
taking
mean,
from the think tank. It's taking from everything that's
right,
ever worked over time. Yeah.
right,
100%.
exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. It's extractive, right? It does not, and if it is the thing that winds up solving cancer, huzzah, like great. I think that's wonderful. But,
Let's bring back
and
huzzah.
right? But like, is it worth distorting your and my innate sense of perception? Like I guess that's maybe because I am an artist and I see the world as an artist. Like my sense of perception, my ability to see and understand and think about and metacognate on the things that are happening around me and the things that are happening inside me, and the ability to like perceive that reality and then struggle to
Yep.
express it,
Yep.
like that is more important to me than
I do have a devil's advocate question for you that just popped into my head. And so this is not one that I've been
excellent.
rehearsing. Just because
Okay,
and I think you'll agree with me, and I know you do the same thing. I always want to look, what is it that we need to learn from this, no matter what it is, even if it's negative, right? So
sure.
it's like, what is it that's going to
Yeah,
come? What is it that
absolutely.
we do you think possibly, and I think that this is where we can end this and then be like, hey, maybe let's talk about the AI thing since it's the hot topic right now. We can start the next episode off. But here's a thought.
Perfect.
Do you think that maybe AI came along in order to help us hone our discernment?
Yes. 100%. I also think that it made, just like Trump and Henry VIII showing us the worst of us, it is showing us the essential value of like the true universal human basic experience. Like I think that the gap between the real and the fake is going to really push us in one direction. You know?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
One
for
thing I
sure.
know about the human brain and the human eye is that we still don't even realize how smart we actually are.
No,
Because I'm starting to see how my own eye is starting to catch the uncanny valley in ways that it never had to even look for before, right? Yeah, no.
how many you're counting the number of fingers on
No,
each person in the
straight
background,
up, yeah.
like
I'm
you're
so
looking
grateful
at
that
the fine print.
I have
Yeah,
been such an insane anthropologist, self-declared, of course, my whole life when it comes to just studying nuances of. I mean, everyone. I get that there is a part of learning the room, reading the room, feeling everybody's feelings and everything because it's survival and trauma and all that stuff, and you survive trauma and whatever. But even if that's initially where that gifting came from, I don't care. I love the fact that I can see someone's eye twitch and be like, yep, saw that. Where's it
yep,
going next? Because that's the kind of
right.
discernment that's gonna survive
Yeah.
the AI onslaught for sure.
Or, I also see the potential benefit of it is like if you were saying that there is no line between reality and not reality anymore, and everything is in fact just made up, right? Then that means I can do whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
yeah,
And I can say any story that I want, and no one's
yep,
going to know. Is it true? Is
yep.
it valid? Is
Remember
it
the
like
movie
we're
Wag the Dog?
essentially, yes,
Yeah, I know that
yes,
freaks me out. Every time I
exactly.
turn on the news these days,
Yeah,
I'm just like, which one of these is the Wag the Dog? Like, I
right.
just,
Well, and that's the whole point, right?
yeah,
Like, and I mean, like to have a macrocosm that is so quickly and gleefully and ready to embrace these things that they don't even know what they're dealing with, right?
yeah,
Like they haven't even thought about the devil's bargain hidden
yeah,
inside of it.
yeah.
They just want a picture of a cat, like licking
Doing
an ice
whatever.
cream cone.
Yep, Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like that's
I mean,
all they
guilty
want,
as
right?
charged. Guilty as charged
Same.
when it,
Same. Same.
for sure.
I'm not a purist by any means. Like I'm not a Luddite. I actually found, especially in the original creative process of like visualizing like the different characters and stuff for the book that I'm writing, like I found AI to be incredibly helpful
Yeah.
because I could put in specific words and they would pop out, kind of like what I was thinking, and I could refine it and like, and to the point where they
100%.
became people to me. The characters became people to me, so then I could just write about them.
Yep.
You know,
No, I get that.
and
100%. I get
you
that.
know,
You
what would
know
I do? Hire
one
a
of the things I
portrait
think we
artist?
hit on,
Like,
and it's so funny how like these are all starting to connect, right? Is AI has
mhm.
become a witness for people.
Yes. It's an artificial witness,
Yeah.
though, because it only gives you back what you want, right? It's not an authentic witness because it's not giving you the eye twitch of like,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can
right?
tell it to, but the
Yeah.
chances that people are digging in and doing that are slim. But I know better. I'm like, you're giving me all the
Yeah.
sickly sweets. Could we not? Like, I need some
Right.
critique here,
You know?
please. Yeah.
But that's because you've been trained on a diet of not sweet, right?
Yeah.
And your
Yeah.
survival is
Yeah.
dependent on not
Yeah.
sweet.
It's true. Yeah.
It's like,
And I
yeah,
also am a genuine, not that I'm saying that, like, people trying to use AI to be artists, bless their hearts. And who's to say what real art is? And I get
right.
it. Eye of the
Yeah.
beholder. But I am a
Hmm.
genuine artist, and I'm a genuine lyricist. I'm a writer, as are you. And we know our craft, and we know what makes craft better. And it's certainly not just a bunch of affirming sickly sweets.
Or, the same basic kind of information that's already been out there forever that's just kind of
Yeah.
regurgitated in
Yeah.
a new way,
Yeah. Yeah.
and especially on
Thank you. I'm
like in
picky.
the it's happening so fast
Yeah.
too, right?
It's
Like
exponential.
so much of
Totally.
my social media is like now filled with bots and
Yep.
like AI bullshit,
Yep.
right? Like where it's like you get halfway through it and you're like, this is not a real human being. This is a computer. Okay, scroll, right? Like, but
Before I forget,
I
your
get
bots
farther and
thing,
farther.
just reminded
Yeah.
me, just because the only other time that I get like bots out the wazoo on my posts is when we talk about APAC and Zionism.
Oh, I know. Isn't that weird? And like, who has time to fund racist bots? That's what I want to know. Like, who has time for racism bots, right? Like, who's like, I'd like to order 7,000 racist bots, please. I would
Yeah,
like to specifically advance the cause of white supremacy. Thank
yeah,
you very much. Here's my check.
yeah.
Like, who the fuck is doing that? Like,
Someone.
somebody's doing it.
Yup.
Somebody's doing it,
Yep.
right?
Whether
Because
it's
robots don't
Russia
just like
or APAC,
robot themselves.
Israel stuff, or I mean, okay.
Who the fuck is doing that?
Yeah.
Like, risk that has the level and like the care to search out content like that, maybe vaguely disagreeing with the
Mm-hmm.
principle, right? Like, not even saying the words, not even like keywording, right? Like, it's like, oh, we can tell that you're like the theme of this post is too progressive. We gotta yank it back into the dark age here,
Yeah.
right? Like,
It smells of a certain, shall we say, musk.
right. Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. That should be
Talk about a
right.
pick me boy.
Like,
That's a pick me boy right there. Good Lord.
oh man.
I used to be an Elon fan. I actually was an Elon fan for a hot minute. In fact, I remember the culmination of my fandom, if you will, for Elon was the beginning of the Ukraine war when he was positioning satellites in order to make sure that they had access and he was coming to their defense.
Right.
And then when
Proving
his
that he
spine
could.
turned into the jelly that it actually really was the whole time and he decided to become a Trump fanboy, that was when I was just like, oh, never mind.
Well,
For a
I
hot
mean,
second there, you were kind of
yeah.
cool, bro.
Right. I know. I remember distinctly having a over dinner conversation with my kids who were really into Marvel at the time, about 10 years ago, and the topic of conversation was, is Elon Musk a supervillain?
Dun,
Like,
dun, dun,
does he
baby.
fit the criteria of supervillainy
I think
based
he
on the
checks all the
Marvel
boxes.
universe?
Yeah.
Now he does. 10 years ago, not so much,
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
and I was like, no, I think he might be. And they were
He's
like,
very
nah, he
Lex Luthor.
definitely isn't.
He's
Right.
he's very
Yeah.
Lex
Like,
Luthor. He
but
wants
to
to
be
find the
able to
kryptonite.
see those things, right? Like years before, and you're just like going over here, I don't think that's good, y'all. Right. And everyone's like, no, it's fine. It's great. And then we wind up with a stolen election and everybody's information out there and, whatever is going to happen. And the thing that really pisses me off about Starlink, I know we're going crazy here, tangent, but is the fact that they fucked up the sky for all the other telescopes in the world. That's not cool. Not cool.
Yeah.
Do we really need internet
No.
in the middle of the Pacific if
And
we're
I
going to
am a
fuck up all
Skywatcher
of the
too.
stuff?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
It's like, at what cost?
Yep. Absolutely.
Anyway,
Absolutely.
write it down. We'll use it for another
Yep.
podcast. I'm sure there's plenty to talk about there.
Well, this has been great. This has been
Yes.
fun, and I think that what I'm gonna do is well, let's go ahead and I'm going to end the recording now. So, folks, we'll be back. I don't know exactly when. I'm going to end the recording now, and then I'm going to talk shop with my co-host after I hit the button. So, bye.
Bye.